Welcome to the Schmucks of the Galaxy podcast. I'm your Agent Callahan, Sherlock, Watson, and Maestro Bistro Toby. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah, why not?
I guess I'll become Lord for this episode.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. It's just that kind of day.
I'm going to steal somebody's identity, and I'm literally just going to say that I am Pedro Pascal.
Okay, it's funny because, right before you joined the call, I was telling Toby, he's not mentioned in any advertising or, reviews or promotional material for this movie. They mention every supporting character, but I don't think I've seen his name.
Neither have I, yet he plays a big role in the movie.
Yeah, it's weird. I was like, why?
I don't know if you guys don't. I don't know if you know this because you guys don't watch Game of Thrones, but he was one of the biggest characters in one of the older seasons of the show. So
yeah, that's what I heard.
As soon as he appeared on that show, he sort of blew up. He's in Narcos, that show, and now he's in Kingsman.
I knew I recognized him from somewhere. Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of Narcos, the location scout, I think, or location manager, director, whatever, was shot while scouting in Mexico.
I'm pretty sure it was just a random assistant, but either way, still pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
Either way, on a lighter note, we all saw the Kingsman movie, number Dose, Electric Boogaloo.
You know, I just want to say, when we were talking about it on the group chat, speaking of that, I think I hit the nail on the head. I'm going to give myself credit for this one by saying it's basically the 22 Jump Street of the Kingsman series, where it's very enjoyable despite having glaring problems. It's so much fun that you overlook them, at least most of them. But it's still a shittier Walmart discount version of the first one.
I'm gonna go on a different direction.
Kick-Ass 2.
Yeah, that's how I felt
it.
It wasn't a movie where the problems could be overlooked because I felt like some of the problems were so obvious and easily avoidable that it kind of damaged my enjoyment of the movie.
Yeah, I can understand that. I just know for me, I was having a great time. I didn't take it seriously once.
Right.
And I think that's probably why I was able to overlook it. It's because I went in with the mindset of, I know this is going to be ridiculous and have a lot of plot holes, so I'm just going to, disregard them and try to have fun with it, you know?
Sure.
So you're not... You know? Yeah.
I mean, it's when the first one came out, it was kind of... I forget the year, but
it came out.
It was kind of around the time. When was it? It was 2012 or something.
2015. That's 2 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
It feels so long ago, but it was around Daniel Craig's James Bond when we had Spectre and all that, and Skyfall, and I appreciated the original Kingsman because it took kind of what I liked about Kick-Ass and then applied it to James Bond, and it had a distinct personality. And then with this one, I feel like I think they understand the type of movie that or the type of franchise Kingsman is, but they just kind of took it too far.
Yeah.
And instead of having one strong main plot like the first one, this one had 18 fucking subplots for every character, and even Elton John, who I really, really thought would be just a gag, ends up becoming a big part of the plot towards the end, which I didn't expect.
Yeah, it was a little over the top with the whole don't get me wrong, the stuff with Elton John was the highlight of the movie because it was just so fucking bizarre.
Yeah, no, he was great.
Absolutely. But it just even in the what is possible in this universe, it felt a little seeing Elton John dropkick someone who has training to kill is a little not too much. It just threw me off.
Yeah, I think it's it suffers from bigger is better.
Yeah,
I think it's kind of they ignore the things about the first one that were great. Even though Valentine in the original had the most ridiculous retarded plan, he was portrayed in a way where you're like, that could actually probably happen in this world.
Yeah.
And
you
he's
understood his plan and why he did
yeah,
it.
he was an active member, like an active member of the plot, and then Julianne Moore, even though she actually thought she did a good job, she spends all her time in like her little weird 50s nostalgia base, and I didn't feel like anything she was really doing had much of an effect. It was like, we're gonna poison all the drugs, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know
guess.
why she did it. I'm sure there's a reason, but they didn't really convey it as well as they did with Valentine in the last movie.
Right,
I get why he
Something
did
I
the
want
things.
to here is simply the fact that the source material that it's based on is written by Mark Millar, and he has a weird tendency to be really bad when it comes to sequels. He's really great at entertaining an original idea for for the length that he could possibly go, its fullest length, like Kick-Ass 1. If you just stick with the first movie, for instance, or the first comic book series, you've pushed it as far as that idea can go. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I feel like this is another example in which he keeps pushing a franchise or a series forward, and because there's nothing else to really do with it, you find yourself in a situation where everything's brought to extremes, like you said. And also, I had one weird pet peeve. I don't know why it bothered me so much, but they said babe. Taron Egerton, when he was talking to his girlfriend, said babe every sentence, and it started to feel artificial. I'm not saying that when people say babe in real life, it sounds weird, but sometimes when it's written into dialogue, it sounds really forced, and I felt like every time he said that, it sounded really forced. They tried to make it sound casual, but it didn't work, and it started to actually annoy me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's the weirdest nitpick, but I kind of understand where you're coming from. I
was disappointed she even came back to begin with.
I was surprised, but
they just took a joke from the first one and then made it an entire character for no reason.
Have you heard
about the drugs?
Well, I feel like it's kind of plays into the whole subverting the James Bond formula, because he obviously there's a Bond girl every movie, and it's funny, at least just in the understanding that Kingsman is sort of riffing off of how the James Bond formula operates, movie by movie, story by story. There's always a new girl. I think it's sort of consistent. It's one of the very few things that's consistent between the first and second movie, is how it sort of makes fun of James Bond, that he has sex with a woman in the first movie and now he's dating her, still dating her.
I feel like they should have just left her in the first one, and then had in this one maybe one of the recruits from the first movie. They had the blonde girl,
Roxy.
Yeah, she could have easily played. She could have played that part.
Yeah, but I think that's what go against the whole point of Kingsman. Having a new romance is the same thing as James Bond, and I feel like that was at least one of the few things where I'm yeah, that's something that would happen in the Kingsman universe. It's
no, I get that. It's just the foundation for it is so thin. It was literally if you save the world, I'll let you put your pickle in my anus, and they took that and made it into a full-fledged relationship, which was.
I mean, it's weird, but it's definitely not the worst part of the movie.
Let's do bunch stuff, and now I love you.
I mean,
it's not that. I mean, there's been worse.
People have fallen in love worse ways than anal.
I guess.
Yeah. So
it just. I don't know. It was character overload, and then the ones that were good weren't there long enough, and then the ones that were kind of were there for way too long.
Yeah, the Statesmen I feel were very underutilized. I feel that was a way to get the Kingsmen, just to move the plot forward. I didn't feel we got enough of Jeff Bridges and Channing Tatum. We got a lot of Pedro Pascal, who was really good, but I was surprised we didn't get a lot of Jeff Bridges.
When Channing Tatum. Did he fall into a coma? Was that what happened?
Well, they froze him so that he wouldn't die.
Right. after that happened, I was like, he's literally like every scene in the trailer, like there's nothing more than that. It's almost like this is gonna be an awful comparison, but the second GI Joe movie, when they didn't think that he could carry the film alone, so they killed him off and had The Rock come back.
Yeah.
It almost kind of felt like that, and I was like, why?
I don't know. Channing Tatum
Like,
just
what's
has
this
a
man-
really
what's
bad
this man have
habit
to
of
do to
dying.
prove himself?
Channing Tatum has a really bad habit of just not being in the movies he's in. It's really bizarre.
Yeah, I don't know.
I actually liked him.
What?
I thought he really Channing Tatum, like in Kingsman. I actually really liked him. I thought he was
Oh no!
fun.
Don't get us wrong. We thought he was good, but
No,
he
I
just wasn't.
wanted more of him.
Yeah, he wasn't there
Yeah,
enough.
but it-
And the same goes with Jeff Bridges.
Yeah.
There's some of the choices in the movie are just really bizarre, and I don't get why they would cast such big name actors if they're going to be in the movie for less than 10 minutes.
Right. I mean, I do appreciate that they got into the whole Colin Firth is alive thing in the beginning, because I think you said it, Toby, when we were seeing another movie, and we were like, why are they showing this in the trailer? Like, that could have been a surprise. And then you said, like, if they get through that in the first 10 minutes, then it won't be an issue.
Well,
and they
I think
pretty
what I
much did.
said
I think it
was
like
is
the first
that, like,
15 minutes.
if it's a big part of the plot, which it was, like,
Yeah.
then it's not as big of a problem. It'd be, like, bad if they showed like, I feel like they weren't honest about some things, but they were honest about other things. Like, I appreciated
Right.
that they were like, yeah, Colin Firth is in this, he's alive. And it's like, okay, that there's some curiosity, you think that's spoiled, but it's, like, part of, like, the, ooh, how did this happen? But it's funny, like, they're honest about him being in the movie, but at the same time, they're not honest about Channing Tatum and Jeff Bridges not being in the movie. Like, I feel like having their characters not be in the marketing would have been better. Like, I would have preferred the movie, like, marketed Colin Firth primarily and just save some of the other actors, like, for the actual movie, as opposed to just hyping it up, like, look at all the actors that are in this movie, and then so many of them are just not in it for enough time to have any presence.
Yeah,
Very
it's
bizarre.
kind of what I'm forgetting what was the movie that we saw and we said this was great, but because it's like the first one was great and then they doubled their budget and that just didn't work in their favor. Like, there's a lot of CGI editing techniques that really were confusing. Like, there's a couple cuts, especially in the action sequences, that are actually CGI, and it made it look like something you would see in, like, Batman versus Superman. You know, it didn't feel like they were like these classy gentlemen, like, you know, doing really badass stuff. It felt like these people are superheroes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what? No, you're absolutely right.
But, like, the flip side of that point is it probably had to.
Yeah,
for
like,
it to work with the story.
yeah. I think the biggest problem with this movie is that it definitely, like you said, Ben, it just went too big, you know?
Yep.
It went way too... I think the simplest way of putting it is that it prioritized style over substance.
Yeah, and, like, there wasn't in the first one, everyone points out, like, the church scene before Colin Firth dies, and, like, that was probably, I think it still is probably one of my favorite action scenes that I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
And I didn't see anything in this that made me go, oh my god! Like, it was good. Like, the action was good. It was flashy, but
Yeah. I feel
don't
like the difference between that scene and, say, when Harry and Eggsy start shooting people where Poppy's base is, I feel like the difference between the church scene and this scene is that the church scene, there was editing, like CGI editing, to make it look like it was one shot, but it was subtle
Right.
and invisible, and then you couldn't notice it. Here you would notice it. Like, the shot where Eggsy shoots a missile into someone else's bazooka, and there's a giant gummy bear that like flies in the sky.
Yeah.
Like, it's fun to look at, but it's a little too much. I think it bogged down the movie a bit.
On that scene in Poppy's Island when they throw that guy in the meat grinder.
Oh, which part? They've done that. They did that multiple times.
Oh, the first one.
Oh yeah.
I felt
it's like
it was
why are you
look
redoing a good thing?
Oh, I didn't think it looked good. Like, I like the idea, but I know they didn't want to go too realistic, for the sake of like surrealistic humor, dark surrealistic humor, where it's not too gross, but it like is borderline. I felt like I don't know what it was, but something about it looked wrong, like looked off to me. I think it was something about the texture.
And here's the thing, like, I agree, and I was texting you guys, I think it was last weekend, about the movie Killing Gunther with Arnold. And that movie clearly, it reminded me of Kingsman 2 in the sense that it's like goofy, quirky action, but the difference is, like, I'm pretty sure Killing Gunther had like maybe a quarter of the budget, and I think a lot of it went into getting Arnold. Because like some of the special effects, like the explosions and gunshots, like aren't good. Like they're not awful, but they're not great. But it didn't bother me because the movie had so much like personality, and it was funny as shit. Like this one. It was long. Like Kingsman 2 was long as hell, and there were points where I was genuinely bored. And like Killing Gunther, I don't remember the runtime, but I don't think there was a point where I was like checking my phone or looking at the time or anything like that.
Yeah. There's, again, like you said, Ben, this movie's really bloated, and I feel like they could have taken out at least 2 characters, and honestly, I think like the whole romance thing could have been scrapped. Like,
yeah.
It added, like, yeah, it was a subplot, but I feel like the subplot with Harry, like, being alive was enough,
Yeah, it's cliched writing. It's the love interest does the thing and they're in danger, and then the other story cliche was the amnesia cliche, which I fucking hate.
Yeah.
The amnesia cliche and the fish out of water cliche are the 2 things that I cannot stand. I think it's the laziest storytelling device. I don't know. It just feels like I wonder how many writers were on this movie, because there's no comic. This wasn't based off a comic, was it? Like the first one was, but
no, it is based off a comic.
I don't know if this was based on an original comic. In this, like, I know the first one was, but I still maintain what I said about Mark Millar in sequels, where he writes stories.
Like, even if it was, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. I'm pretty sure is it Mark Millar or Mark Miller? Anyway,
Mark Millar.
I'm pretty sure Millar. It's so weird saying that. I'm pretty sure it's based off of, I don't know if it's a story or a comic book or a graphic novel, but it's called The Secret Service, not Kingsman The Secret Service.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, so it's definitely based off of something. So this is definitely drawing from source material, though I have no idea how accurate it is, if at all.
So I just looked it up. There is Volume 1, which is The Secret Service. There's Kingsman The Big Exit, and then there's Kingsman Volume 2, The Red Diamond.
Oh, The Red Diamond.
Yeah, which is a direct sequel, and it has nothing to do with the movie. The synopsis says Eggsy and the Kingsmen go on a rescue mission to save Prince Philip and unravel a terror plot by a terror organization called the Red Diamond. So that clearly has nothing to do with the movie.
Yeah, like, but it's definitely... It almost
would have been better if they had gone off of the comic plot. That just sounds more focused.
Right. It's definitely, like, drawing from something. And I don't know if the source material, puts all this stuff in there and then sort of has it not pay off in the same way that this movie does, but either way,
right.
Like, source material or not, I just thought this movie was disappointing. I had fun with it. It's just...
Yeah. Side note, Kingsman The Big Exit was published in Playboy.
Oh.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Well, that's out there.
It says Kingsman: The Big Exit was published in Playboy magazine, and it's set in the they say the Millarverse. That's gross. It follows a different Eggsy. So it follows Gary Eggsy Unwin instead of Gary Eggsy. So I guess the film version is Gary Eggsy Unwin, and then the comic one is Gary Eggsy London. So I don't know what the fuck this is. Like, I guess the Big Exit is a movie tie-in.
This shit's just making me more.
Is a sequel.
This shit's just making me more mad.
I don't understand.
It's so fucking
the deeper
stupid.
we go. And there's a third. Vaughn revealed that there is a third Kingsman film planned.
Of course there is. Hopefully it's better than this one.
Oh my god! Wait. In this,
The Rock.
Yep. He wants The Rock to play the villain. I'm done. I'm fucking done. I love Dwayne Johnson, but he needs to go away for a long time. I'm so fucking sick of him.
Yeah.
And it's not that he's bad. It's not that he's bad at all.
He's in like 5 movies a year, and it's enough.
Kingsman The Golden Circle will have a tie-in video game to accompany the movie release. It's a turn-based match 3 role-playing combat game. So it's a mobile game. So they're gonna just, microtransaction the shit out of that.
Well, I'm glad they are definitely putting their resources into a movie tie-in game, and not the movie. Just lovely.
Yeah, and then there was a bunch of product placement in this one. Like, I kept getting emails before I saw the movie about, I guess. It sounds like it's whiskey. It's like Old Forester whiskey. Yeah, it's whiskey. And there's like a Kingsman edition. And I don't know if you noticed, but like in the background of certain scenes, like if it's in an office and there's some alcohol, like you can see clearly the label. Like it was super obvious.
Well, it's not as obvious as them literally talking about McDonald's in the last movie. Like it plays.
Yeah, no,
it's part of the joke.
If they hadn't have sent me like 15 emails for Kingsman whiskey.
Yeah, I think that stuff, like, it plays into the plot. It's part of the joke. Like that applies.
It's not the movie's fault. That's a production company,
right,
or a publisher.
Again, I think the marketing has a lot to do with some of the problems with this movie, you know?
Can we just say the trailer for Kingsman 2 was fucking amazing?
It was a better trailer than the movie.
Watchmen.
Honestly, the trailer was better.
Actually, I take it back. I can maintain it, but every Snyder film is the same way. Matthew Vaughn usually has both great trailers and great movies. What I will defend is that while the writing itself is bad, I feel like Matthew Vaughn continues to show that he's a good director and can make a bad script enjoyable.
Right.
I mean, I would agree with that. Like, this is definitely not a bad movie. Like, it's fun to watch, but...
Wait, Zach, did this guy write Civil War?
Yeah, he wrote Civil War. He wrote Flash in the 90s for a couple years. He wrote a comic book called Superior. He wrote Nemesis. He wrote Kick-Ass.
The fuck? What happened?
Yeah, he wrote a lot of stuff. A lot of really cool stuff he's written. I'm trying to think of what else he's written. Yeah, he wrote the first Civil War. What else is he famous for?
Let's see. Ultimate X-Men, Ultimate Fantastic Four. Looks like Amazing Spider-Man 121. Oh, he was the one that did the Death of Gwen Stacy.
Well, Death of Gwen Stacy, what do you mean? The original was written in the 70s, and I think it was written in the 70s when Stan Lee was still writing for Spider-Man.
Really?
Yeah, so maybe it was
maybe this was the first comic that he read. I don't know, the biography is worded and ambiguously. Well, because it says his first comic was the seminal Spider-Man. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the 70s one. So that they probably meant that was his first comic. That would scare the fuck out of me if he somehow wrote a comic.
Yeah, no.
Either Mark Millar is a time traveler or someone in this podcast is illiterate.
Looks like he wrote. It looks like he. It's probably me. Looks like he
I
wrote.
was gonna say Ben's the only one I'm reading, so I feel like it's.
No, it looks like he wrote Old Man Logan.
Yeah, he did. Okay, that's really good.
And what else? He worked on. It looks like he worked on the script for Iron Man 3, and he suggested to replace the Mandarin with Ironmonger.
Wait, what? How does that even work? They killed him off in the first.
I don't know. Yeah.
Sounds like this guy is full of great ideas.
Well, here's the thing. Like I
man.
said, he's the kind of guy that's willing to take a risk with his ideas and storytelling, which is why he has a lot of really cool, like, unique stuff out there. But the problem is like, there are certain ideas that you can't extend that far. And another example I'll use is, like, the Hangover movies. It's like,
Right.
I'm surprised they were able to make that joke last a whole movie, and it was funny the first time. But when you try to make sequels and add on to it, there's nothing to add. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well,
It's like
here's all you need to know. He was brought on to oversee Fox's cinematic universe as a creative consultant for the X-Men franchise and Fantastic Four. So
Wow.
I don't want to say that those are his fault, but those are his fault.
Well, he's certainly full of great ideas.
Wait.
Yeah.
But I feel like Fantastic Four was a mess where literally nobody listened to anybody else.
Yeah, that movie.
Yeah.
There's just so many continuity errors. Like, some people have different color hair in certain scenes. Like, they're wearing different clothing. Like, it's just bad.
So yeah.
Fantastic Four is an atrocity. We're not talking about
Yeah,
that.
let's get back to Kingsman. What do you think of Kingsman 2, The Golden Circle? Anything else you'd want to say?
I don't think it deserved a 0, like how Roger Ebert scored it.
Wait, he's dead.
Think it's what?
Roger Ebert's dead.
Well, whoever wrote for it, you know what I mean, on the site. I've never seen them score, give something a 0. It's like
Wait, guys. Speaking of that, you talked of, like, 0 out of 4 wasn't one of the main reasons they scored both movies relatively low because they had issues with how they portrayed female characters.
Yeah, and to be fair, the guy that wrote the article, I usually don't agree with a lot of things he says. He seems to have a very big feminist slant, and not that that's a bad thing, but it affects his reviews. I don't think he reviewed the first one. I think they gave that one like a 3 or a 2.5 or something, but this one literally just has a thumbs down, and I don't think I've ever seen that.
Okay, it's not that bad by miles.
To,
It's like
to put that in perspective, like, Friend Request got a 1.5, and Kingsman
ridiculous.
didn't even make it onto, like, the scoreboard. So I didn't think it was that bad.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy it. I would see it, like, I would only recommend it if it's on cable.
Yeah. It's not a movie I would buy. And I don't know if I would watch it again, which sucks.
Really, I would say that it's a movie that I wouldn't buy, but, like, if it was on TV and I wanted to chill out, it's a really fun movie to turn your brain off to and just watch. And I prefer it over any Fast and the Furious movie. Like, I can't do Fast and the Furious. It's too fucking stupid. But this movie, for me, is in the right area where it's stupid enough to basically be my Fast and the Furious, where I can turn my brain off and, like, enjoy it. But it's definitely not an amazing movie by any means. So I'd put it in the very middle. Like, you know, it's like a C+, or like a C, you know?
Right. Yeah, this one was weird. I mean, this review is so picky. Like, they literally say, the news reports in this movie are done by Fox News, because Fox is the publisher or whatever.
Well, it sounds like someone's political biases are getting in the way of their opinion.
Yeah, and then they also say, like, the last movie had someone stand in for Obama, and then this one, they're just too afraid to touch Trump, so they just have a generic president. Yeah, this guy, I usually don't agree with his reviews, so.
Yes.
It's
Well,
very political.
the
I
moral
don't
of
think
the
this
story.
movie is not supposed to be political.
Yeah, the moral of the story is that you should make up your own opinion.
Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't agree more, but I do ask, being as that has been brought up substantially in regards to the first Kingsman movie and now the second, what do you guys think about like how they portray female characters? Because I feel like they had Gazelle in the last one, and they had Poppy in this one, who was very menacing and wasn't portrayed in any of the stereotypical wasn't portrayed in the way every other stereotypical.
I mean the thing
but I kind of felt
seeing,
it myself.
Yeah, the thing I keep seeing people reference is the scene where they like put a tracker on what's her face by like grabbing her by the pussy and
Jesus
like
Christ.
that's literally how they worded it. I'm not just making that up. So that was kind of weird. I mean,
first movie as well felt I got the joke and I let all this shit pass because it was so absurd and over the top. And I'm not usually I don't really notice these things, or at least I don't care so much. But I found this.
Yeah, me neither. I like Gazelle. Was that her name? Gazelle.
Yeah, with the robotic arm.
Yeah, in the last one, I thought she was a freaking badass. So I didn't. It wasn't the only time I noticed it in the last one was with "If you save the world, you can put your pickle in my sphincter."
Yeah.
But this one, it went a little
too far.
More.
Here's my opinion. If it's a movie that's as dumb and silly as this, like taking the movie seriously, you're sort of defeating the purpose of the movie. Like I don't like the movie, but it's
not a political
it's a
movie.
dumb.
I think.
Well, even if it is political or not, this is a movie where Elton John dropkicks someone. Like it's not a serious movie. Like to take it serious, seriously, just like in the vein of politics, is pointless.
Yeah, I think that people are thinking that like the movie kind of just doesn't have the right to get away with being like that,
which is dumb in my opinion. I feel like if they're allowed to make the movie, they're allowed to make the movie they want, and if it sucks, it sucks. If they don't like it, they don't like it. But they're allowed to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Yeah. That being said, the movie kind of underwhelmed me. I don't know how I feel about a third one because I don't want to get disappointed again.
I think that they're shit. Honestly, I feel like it's not past.
What? Zach, your audio quality is terrible.
I'm saying that
there we go.
The series is past redemption. I feel like they could most definitely make a third movie that makes up for the second one, because even though the movie had a lot of problems, it was still redeeming. Like, it was still enjoyable, which means that the sequel could potentially be good. So if being as they are going to make it, I feel like as long as I listen to a lot of the primary criticism and try to make it more cohesive like the first one, I feel like it has potential to be better, because we've seen that happen a lot.
Right.
Where either the first movie's bad and the second movie makes up for it, or the first movie's great, sequel's bad, third movie, makes up for it. We've had it where the sequel is the bad one. So I feel like all in all, there's a possibility that looking back at these movies, it'll be the first one was great. I don't know what the fuck happened with the second one, and the third one was good. And I doubt it'll be as good as the first, but it'll definitely be better than the second if they try.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really just sounds like it was lazy writing and a bloated budget. So I'm hoping. I think it beat out it for this weekend. But after the reviews, I don't think it'll make nearly as much as they want. So I'm hoping if there is a third, they'll have less of a budget.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they also don't rush this movie. Because this movie came out 2 years after the last one. I'm hoping they take their time with the possible third one.
Right. Yeah. It's like the Avatar sequels now. They're doing 4 of them at the same time. It's going to cost $1 billion. We already know who the villain is for all 4 movies. It's the same person. I don't know.
But at least they took their time.
At least they took their time. Yeah, but does anyone want it?
Nope, but they took their time.
Jesus Christ. What was that?
I don't know.
It's like a robot seizure.
All right. Speaking of
That
seizures,
is
I'm
quite
gonna
the
have one.
description for it.
All right. I feel like we've touched upon the points worth touching.
Well, I think so as well, but let's go. Let's talk about some positives before, because I feel like even though there are a lot of problems, we got to give the movie some merit,
Sure.
if like where we can. And I think some of the positives I can name, none of it's story.
That's
so if you're
true.
worried about me saying any
Yeah.
story related,
I think
don't worry,
that
I won't.
in terms of the most broad things I can say about the movie that were good, it had.
Directing, choreography, special effects, I thought were really good.
I would disagree about special effects. I thought they were actually really like bad. I'd say that the action and the acting was, and some of the direction was fairly like
Okay.
commendable. I thought the special effects sometimes just like again.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Now that you pointed out, I think what I'm thinking of is the directing, where I felt like the camera shots themselves and like the adrenaline you felt at moments is really
Yeah,
great.
it's a good
But
looking
you're right.
movie, but I feel like a lot of the special effects, like the robot dogs and Elton
You're
John
right.
drop kicking
I felt like
someone.
the faces looked odd now that I think about it, like in motion at times. Like their bodies moved awkwardly.
Yeah, it looked too much
I
like
mean,
a video game.
I would go as far as to say that this movie is actually like beautifully shot. If you think about it, like everything
Camera-wise,
is
I'd agree. Yeah.
like whoever the director of photography was. I don't remember
Yeah.
his name. Like I actually thought he did a great job, and then I thought that I think Mark Strong is always really underrated, and I thought he did a really really good job.
That's
He
true.
always does.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All the actors were good. I had no problems acting wise.
right. I don't know if I would say the movie was beautifully shot because I feel like a lot of the
I wasn't expecting it. That's why
I
I
don't know.
was surprised.
Like personally, I thought that like I appreciated that some of like there were some sets and not everything was CGI, but I thought that most of the establishing shots and the wide shots, everything was really loaded with special effects, and the fact that they didn't look good kind of made me roll my eyes a bit, to be honest.
Right.
It's
I
not a
also
perfect
didn't
movie.
like that subplot with the guy from the last movie with the robotic arm. I thought that could have been like cooler, because I felt like the ideas they were throwing around, it felt like they were trying to make a really cool like supervillain, you know?
Yeah.
Like his vocal cords don't work properly, so he has a robotic voice. You know, he wants to take revenge on the main character from the last movie, but I feel like he's not that intimidating, and he looks kind of goofy.
Right.
Yeah,
Like,
and he
looks like he could be legit, like a thinner, fit Nick Frost, is how I felt. So
yeah, I can see that.
I don't know. I just felt like they could have chosen a better like villain to like have the robotic arm and stuff. The robot hand hacking into the
That was
car
so
was the dumbest
stupid.
shit.
That was fucking
So
dumb.
fucking stupid. Okay, we all agree. I'm happy to hear that there's a
It's
consensus
like I
on
said, it's a lazy plot device.
Yeah.
And this is another thing about Kingsman that I find so funny, and it's a pattern. They kill off like a major character, or in this case, characters, and then the Kingsmen, they're like, oh no, we might be out of resources, and then like
What?
group of Kingsmen.
Zach, you
they're forsaken
literally
ghosts
like
get
disappeared
more
for like a
resources.
good 30 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. In
You
any
guys feel
event, I feel
Not
like
just-
we've basically covered it from head to toe.
Yeah.
That was probably the greatest thing I've heard in a long time.
What I love is that usually there's a bit more disagreement, and I found that in this particular review there was primarily agreement on everything. There was very
Yeah.
like, little disagreement, and that goes to show like how the problems and pros of the movie are actually so prominent.
Yeah. In
That-
the weirdest way, this
that, like-
movie brought us together.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Alright, well, anyways, I'm Toby, and you guys want to, I guess, introduce yourselves already?
Yeah, I'm Zach.
Right. I'm Cumlord.
And we are
Also-
Schmucks of the Galaxy.
Yep.
And,
I mean, I see it if it's on cable. That's my recommendation.
watch it on
for
your
free.
Zune.
Did you say Zune?
Goodbye, everybody.
That's disgusting.